लिख रहा हूँ मैं अंजाम जिसका कल आगाज आएगा। मेरे लहू का हर एक कतरा इनकलाब लाएगा। मैं रहूं या ना रहूं, पर ये वादा है मेरा तुमसे कि मेरे बाद वतन पर मरने वालों का सैलाब आएगा। With these lines by our beloved martyr Shahid Bhagat Singh Ji, I welcome you to this episode of Hindi. I am Shrishti. This is Anushka, and for this episode, I want to tell everybody that with Hindi's recent visit to Punjab, this episode has been inspired by the remains of Jallianwala, the place where on 13th April 1919 a horrible massacre took place which claimed the lives of many Indians and innocent Indians, I might add. And for this episode, we are going to trace back the stories of those heroes who have fought for us. We are going to explore a section of Indian freedom struggle that is often overlooked in our history books, that is the period of revolutionaries from 1906 to 1919. This conversation, I would like to start with a disclaimer that this is going to be one of the most unfiltered conversation ever, because the subject of revolutionaries, as we're going to trace in this video, we're going to be starting from the partition of Bengal, which is a watershed moment in Indian revolutionary start, as we say, because that's the moment where everybody, especially youngsters, give a call to action and they realize what exactly is going on in this country. So we will start with those narratives, and we urge you to stick to the end of the video to understand what exactly did the revolutionaries do and why did they end up in the footnotes of history, and why are they not the central focal part of it. We want to explore that, and hence this episode. So talking about the partition of Bengal, as we all know from our history textbooks that it was 1905 when it was decided that Bengal should be partitioned into two different parts. The reasons behind it can be discussed and debated, but my point is that when a young boy, 13, 14-ish, gives the slogan of burn the clothes that burn our land, you understand the direness of the situation, that a 13-year-old child understands what exactly is going on in their land. So with that, and if you want to understand more in detail about how the land of the Bengalis, which is Bengal and Bangladesh today, how it came to be and why is it divided, what are its important things, we have an episode on that. Unfortunately, it's not on video, but you can find it on Spotify. The link will be in the description box. With the partition of Bengal, what we essentially see is a rise of a separate sect of freedom fighters. Before that, we had the revolution, the moderates and the extremists. But after the partition of Bengal, a new phase emerges as the revolutionaries who were inspired by the recent Bolshevik revolution in Russia at that time. And it gave us the way to think and understand the psychology of the revolutionaries, because the Bolsheviks also were fighting on the same lines, that they want equal rights, they want freedom from the Tsar regime and stuff like that. And with that, our leaders like Bhagat Singh Ji, Nehru Ji, to a lot extent, Subhash Chandra Bose Ji, they've always been inspired by the Russian story, because somewhere they thought that taking power in their hands and giving it to the common people was something that Russia was able to achieve. At least at that point of time. The current situation is still very debatable, and that is how their entire concept of revolution itself is shaped, because a lot of times revolutionaries are misconcepted as violent, misguided souls, which was not the case because of the revolution in Russia at that time. And it gave us the way to think and understand the psychology of the revolutionaries, because the Bolsheviks also were fighting on the same lines, that they want equal rights, they want freedom from the Tsar regime and stuff like that. And with that, our leaders like Bhagat Singh Ji, Nehru Ji, to a lot extent, Subhash Chandra Bose Ji, they've always been inspired by the Russian story, because somewhere they thought that taking power
in their hands and giving it to the common people was something that Russia was able to achieve. At least at that point of time, the current situation is still very debatable, and that is how their entire concept of revolution itself is shaped, because a lot of times revolutionaries are misconcepted as violent, misguided souls, which was not the case, because in his book, Bhagat Singh Ji clearly tells us that with revolution he means a complete overhaul of the existing system that is only enabling the elites to have power and the common people being out of power and basically selling their souls to these white men. But with revolution, he also means that when the Brits will leave, the power should not end up in the brown elites. It should be equally divided, which again is a very debatable concept at this point of time.
So, Anushka, I understand that there is a common narrative when we talk about the extremist phase or the revolutionary phase. We're often taught that they were people who just like to attack people for some reason. But that's not true. That's fundamentally not true. And the prime example is with us is Shahid Bhagat Singh. That man wrote so many pieces of books. He read so many books at 23 years of age, and even when he was not in prison, we hear about the kind of collective studies that he used to bring out and used to explain to people what liberty actually means. And for all the violent sort of quote unquote violent nature of revolutionary methods, you have to take inspiration from Bhagat Singh Ji, because he tells you that even after all of that, even after all the miseries that India has faced at the hands of the British, you must not hate them. Because it's not, you can't collectively blame a race for all of that. As much as we want to. But it's not possible, because enlightened people, as civil people and enlightened ones that we have fought so hard to become, I feel like it's important to position the revolutionaries in the right framework and not understand them as some people who know guerrilla warfare and hence attack whatever they can.
Exactly. I think that is the essence of this episode as well, because after reading not as much as that man read in his life, but the little that we know about the period and the time and the thought process of the people, we are trying to position the revolutionaries in a frame that doesn't paint them as violent terrorists, but position them as the actual revolutionaries, the Krantikari as they would term themselves, because when revolution or stuff like that is talked about, they were very well read. They were extremely well read. The things that they did were extremely calculated. It was not a burst of anger that came out. Even the bombing that he was later executed for, it was so calculated that nobody I tell you was even harmed in that bombing. Only a bench was destroyed. And in his book, he clearly writes that that was the motive, because bomb blasts or killings are not just killing of a person or bomb blast of a place. It was a method for them to make their voices heard.
Exactly. That's where we want to draw our experiences at the Jallianwala Bagh Memorial. It is so incredibly well constructed. I urge you to find the time and go. Please read those excerpts that are written in the wall, and we're going to read out a few of them for you in this video. But the point is that in the global scale, we know so much about different kind of brutalities that were, carried out throughout the history. We know about the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We know the Holocaust. We have all studied it in our books. But why haven't we studied the exact ways in which Jallianwala put down our confidence, laid down thousands and thousands of lives? Why are we not talking about that? Can you imagine that park full of people who are trying to celebrate a festival peacefully, and then they are bridged upon in the name of that they are scheming against the government? I understand that there could be different narratives around it, but Anushka, you can shed light on it. What was your experience there? What did you feel?
First of all, a very clear warning to anybody who thinks that Indians were fool enough to be in a place where they could be shot at. because there were no warnings, and before any meeting that was seen as a threat by the British government, there used to be a letter or a bill that would come to tell the people that, okay, so and so place is not allowed for people to enter in, and you should not hold a meeting there. No such warning signs were shot before the Baisakhi festival in Jallianwala was organized, and at what 4 p.m. in the evening, suddenly, imagine if you were in a place stuck and sudden firing starts with no fault of your own. I mean, just to understand what is happening would take you 5 minutes or so, and by then 500 people died right in front of your eyes, or probably you would be one of them there. And that was the case in that park. And if you go now, it might look that, oh, it's such a big place, but mind you, the construction was such that there was only one entering and one exit, and 20,000 people, according to accounts, were in attending at that fair. And by the time around 5:30 p.m., when the forces left, there was piles and piles of body of around 1,600 people,
Yeah.
piled upon each other. I mean, the horrific situation is beyond my imaginations, and anybody who wants to actually read the full story, I would highly recommend the movie Sardar Udham. It beautifully portrays how brutal the massacre was, and beautifully in a cinematic form.
So just to get you to understand the gravitas of the situation, we have a few pictures here in my phone which we took at the Jallianwala Bagh Memorial because we wanted to make you understand the gravitas of it. I have some excerpts that I'm going to read out, and you yourself can decide whether that is triggering enough to you. Okay, so this is basically a recall by persons who was present there. So he says, and I quote, I reached the Jallianwala Bagh on 13th of April at about 5 p.m. and entered it by the entrance near Lala Julan Das's house. I had hardly reached the meeting ground when I heard the cries of Aage, Aage. I saw people running. I kept standing near the corner and looked in front and saw some soldiers standing near the main entrance and firing their rifles. Near the place where I stood, I saw a large number of persons killed and wounded. I was hurt in my right eye. The bullet passed near my right temple. I got another shot on the right chest, but this bullet also passed out. I was under treatment for about 25 days. My whole right eye had been taken out. As long as I was in my senses, I saw heaps of persons lying around me, either killed or wounded. Unquote. This is a statement by Wazir Ali, who was a teacher. And the story does not end there. There are countless people who saw it, because if you go to Jallianwala, you see that there are houses attached to that bagh, and you can see that people went on in their lives as usual on that fateful day as well. You have something else to tell us, Esther?
So, the story of violence after the Rowlatt was passed and the protests were not even started, it doesn't end at 13th of April, because that is such a watershed moment that we are always taught about Jallianwala.
Yes.
But there are more to it, and I'm just going to read something out for you, which I personally found really horrific, because it is a horrific incident and we don't even know about it. That was from 15th to 18th April 1919. An armored train went on firing people near the railway tracks, right from Lahore to Sheikhpura and then to Harkhana. This train killed so many people that were never even counted. And there are thousands of stories like this where the atrocities have been done, where people have sacrificed their lives, or they were killed intentionally, unintentionally. And this is something which people like us might not forget, because there is a lot of debate around, okay, let's forget the past, let history be history. But when your history is like such, that has um, been so dire in situations that normal people cannot even imagine, I don't think forgetting is the solution. I mean, obviously, we cannot hate an entire race or based on past experiences, but it's not even fair to the people who have laid their lives for this land to forget. There was a recent interview that we saw of the granddaughter of General O'Dwyer, the person who commanded the firing on those people on 13th April. And she very easily said, let history be history. But for the people living in Punjab, whose ancestors were in that Bagh at that point of time, I read this really beautiful quote somewhere where a woman, after narrating the whole story of her grandfather, tells that for you it might just be a story, but for us, we live every moment of that story. For the longest time, English was not allowed in their homes because it reminded of the Englishmen who shot at them. Who, for them, the incident was part of the lifestyle. It changed the way they thought. So I don't think that forgetting the history is part of the solution.
It's not, and precisely this is the reason why we should remember all of this, is because we are still in a generation where our grandfathers or great grandfathers have some sort of a connection to the freedom movement. And it has just been the journey of 75 years that we are in, 75, 76 odd years that we are independent. Okay, and the freedom struggle has lasted for us. It starts practically at 1857. We cannot afford to forget all of this, is because the world will tell you, as an Indian, the world will tell you when you step up is that your country has achieved nothing. These are the proofs that you can give to them, the kind of brutalities that you were subjected to, and
the incident was part of the lifestyle. It changed the way they thought. So I don't think that forgetting the history is part of the solution.
It's not, and precisely this is the reason why we should remember all of this, is because we are still in a generation where our grandfathers or great grandfathers have some sort of a connection to the freedom movement. And it has just been the journey of 75 years that we are in, 75, 76 odd years that we are independent. Okay, and the freedom struggle has lasted for us. It starts practically at 1857. We cannot afford to forget all of this, is because the world will tell you, as an Indian, the world will tell you when you step up is that your country has achieved nothing. These are the proofs that you can give to them, the kind of brutalities that you were subjected to, and you still stand tall.
Again, if I bring back the topic of revolutionaries and why I say that they were extremely well read, was one of the many things that they wanted to achieve that entailed freedom, obviously, sovereignty of the country, equality of people. But something very important and underrated that I think was building confidence of the people.
Yeah.
They read so much and they encouraged everybody else to read, because that would empower you and me to know more about where we come from. And in the famous lyric of Bob Marley, if you know where you're coming from, you wouldn't ask me why I am here.
Exactly. And so this is the narrative that whenever we study about revolutionaries, basically we do not study about people who actually did a lot of things. But if you study about somebody like Prafullo Chaki, you can think that he was just 16-year-old. What would he know, right? Okay, case in point taken. But what would you say about somebody such as Bhagat Singh Ji? What would you say about some people like Chandrasekhar Azad? Are they not revolutionaries? Are they not well read? The kind of content that they have produced in jail, awaiting their death sentence, they've produced work that talks about not petty things. It talks about state. It talks about societies. It talks about human society. There is a book that comes out now in a very fancy cover that is called The Jail Diary of Bhagat Singh. And I recommend you to read it, because in that book you will understand what goes through the mind of somebody who's 23 and awaiting the end of their lives for a cause that may or may not come true someday. So to recognize their credits is something fundamentally important, especially among the youth. We can have our holidays at 13th or 23rd, but it is a spirit to remember them is what is important.
And in the lines of the educated folks that we have had, fortunately, to lead our people, the list goes on. And why I encourage everybody to read more about it or know more about it is there are thousands of them we don't even know of. At least we can try and remember the few hundreds that we actually know, whose name has been mentioned, because again, that is what built the nation today. Our very ancient history was the child of its own time. There were good things, bad things. But essentially, the unification that happened under the tricolor happened because we were fighting the common enemy. And this is something that they have constantly talked about, that be united, be educated, try to build an equitable society, because that is what revolution would bring, and that is what a sovereign country would at the end achieve.
Exactly. So, from the India House, we only remember Madam Bhikaji Kama because obviously she's a legendary woman who's done a lot for the country. But please also do remember that the entire India House was filled with those people like Madan Lal Dhingra who just came to study. Exactly. So, from the India House, we only remember Madam Bhikaji Kama because obviously she's a legendary woman who's done a lot for the country. But please also do remember that the entire India House was filled with those people like Madan Lal Dhingra who just came to study their law, be a perfect gentleman. But when the cause when the cause struck him, when he understood what it was him who took upon himself and did what needed to be done. And apart from the India House, you also hear stories because the Indian Revolution was not just geographically limited to India. We were everywhere. We were in Germany, we were in San Francisco. The cause of revolution, it was so buland, as we say, that it echoed worldwide. We had our people who went abroad, but they didn't forget the land that they came from and the cause that need to be fulfilled.
But despite the short period of time that the revolutionaries had to their reign, what they've achieved is something that we still don't read enough. And I encourage everybody and I urge everybody to go through whatever material that they can. We will link down and pin comments may be put on the things that we recommend to everybody to read. But the unfortunate part of the story is the cause they fought came true but half-heartedly. Because the psychological games that the British played actually did work on us, and the country got divided. The unfortunate incident of partition is no less fearful, horrific, and heartbreaking than the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, because it still pains thousands and thousands of people on both sides of the border. And something I want to read out from Amrita Pritam's beautiful piece is when she talks about partition as, "Today I call Waris Shah, speak from your grave, and turn today the book of love's next affectionate page. Once the daughter of Punjab cried, and you wrote a wailing saga. Today 1,000,000 daughters cry to you, Waris Shah. Oh, the narrator of the grieving, rise, look at your Punjab. Today fields are lined with corpse, blood fills the Chenab. Someone has mixed poison in the 5 rivers flow. Their deadly water is now irrigating our lands galore. This fertile land is sprouting, venom from every pore. The sky is turning red from the endless cries we pour. Toxic forest winds scream its wake, turning each fruit's bamboo shoot in deadly snake. With this, I submit my part in this episode. I thank everybody who watched this. I encourage everybody to watch it till the end. We will add all of the pictures, videos that we got at the end of the episode. And if you want to watch it, please stay till the end. Otherwise, Over to you.
Over to me, and my final note comes with a little bit of sad tinge because I want every Indian to address the PTSD that we've been going through. Please do not suppress it. Read more about it. Read about, as much as you read about your Joe Rogan, please also read about the revolutionaries that have lived through this land. Visit those places where these horrific incidents have happened. Don't let them burden you, but acknowledge their presence, acknowledge that this happened. Just because you want to get your UK visas, guys, it's okay, this is future. But remember your past, remember where you come from. This has been my submission. We will link our favorite books or pieces of poetry that we are obsessed with, because this is the faces of people who are obsessed with the freedom movement and the partition galore that happens. So whatever documentaries, books, poetries we would recommend would be in the pinned comment. If you find them interesting, please go through it.
And because I speak too much and I forgot something, happy Vaisakhi, everybody, because this
Exactly.
episode is going to be on Vaisakhi. So happy Vaisakhi to everyone celebrating. And with that,
we give our final submissions to you. Thank you if you're listening so far. Thank you. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.